You know, back when the day I had first made my decision to actually go off grid, my intentions were a little bit more vast than what I've actually did. During the time when I was gathering, some of you probably seen the videos I've put up on it. You saw me going up to Home Depot buying supplies, and then I ended up hauling it. I literally had to push this makeshift cart just to haul the supplies. You have no idea how badly they wanted to prevent me from leaving. Every single attempt that they tried, even to prevent me from even getting a ride to haul the actual supplies itself back to my apartment at the time. It was insane. Like, it's just the utter amount of desperation of the tactics they used, even going as far as to having people waiting on the side of the road as I was passing by, since it took me so long just to haul all that stuff all the way back. But I did it. Despite all the bullshit, I actually did it. I literally hauled 3 large flat boards of plywood, as well as all the other equipment, along with at least 27 boards of wood, all going down damn near almost 30 miles. Probably, I think it may have been not 30, probably like a good 15 or 17 miles total, and I didn't even make it back to my apartment till 12 o'clock at night. But I did it. I fucking did it. Nobody was willing to help me out at the time, but I freaking did it. That was, despite the fact that I never managed to make the raft. You got to understand, when I had planned to do that, I was planning on literally saying goodbye to everything that I had known thus far at the time. I was just completely done and had absolutely no interest in ever returning. I was completely disgusted with how society has turned it's against itself, to where it's allowing families to turn against each other, friends to turn against one another, and people just allowing themselves to just be manipulated and screwed over by a system that just doesn't give a damn about them. Some of you probably have already noticed this, but then again, some of you probably haven't. I have my suspicions about what has been happening on lately. I think some of our perpetrators wanted us to stay offline for a bit for certain reasons, and it was certain information they didn't want us to find out about. But as soon as I found out about it, they started freaking out as a result. The usual stuff that they would do just to try to basically divert my focus onto something else, pretty much. What they have been doing, and this involves the graphene. They have been putting the graphene in the what is that? The geoengineering, and it's also been mentioned that this could very well have made its way into other things as well. Besides that, I'm going to leave links in this video for you all to just look into this for yourself. I stumbled upon and managed to find a Rife frequency that helps basically to convince this substance to exit out the body, to make it want to be able to leave the body. Judging from the hints that were dropped down on what you should do as a result, you would also have to not only get a change of clothes, but also wash yourself after these sessions of using those frequencies. But the reason why I found out about this is because I noticed some of the previous frequencies I was using, it's just they were not as potent as they used to be anymore. It was like something had changed. And lo and behold, someone had actually tipped me off years ago about this, of what they were doing, and I didn't pick up on it at the time. There were 2 different things that were being stated. Even a call for an uprising was mentioned, as well as Jeff censored. They both were mentioning this stuff, and I just didn't pick up on it at the time. They were desperate to get this substance in people's bodies. This is a part of how they're hijacking people's minds and getting them to act out. And the sad part is, people are destroying themselves in the process because of this, due to lack of information, lack of knowing. They're putting themselves in harm's way while the enemy is just literally just sitting back, relaxing, allowing all this chaos of which they're causing to unfold. This is destroying families and so many innocent lives. The vast amount of suicides that have taken place, the vast amount of mass shootouts that are also taking place, are literally at the head and literally a part of this, literally the core part of this problem here. And it's all due to the manipulation of all of this stuff. I believe that right frequencies are probably going to be one of our major big trump cards against this this evil entity that seeks to rob us of both our minds and our sanity. I may not be the best person out there, but I at least want to do the best I can by many other people. Even if it's at least a little bit of something, that's all that counts. I may not live forever, but at least my efforts won't be in vain. At least this information hopefully will pass to the next generation, so they also will be able to protect themselves from stuff like this. And if we ever get to a point to where we do beat this, we need to ensure that this stuff is at least not only knowledgeable, but also knowledgeable to how to combat it and immediately prevent it from doing harm on anyone else. Our history alone, not even just ours, but like the history of the world, right? It has monuments for a reason. It has murals. It has many different chapters of history for a specific reason. And it's to serve as a guide to not repeat the mistakes that were once caused in the past, so that we will not strive from the path that actually is supposed to put peace in our world, at least for the next generations to come. That peace is obviously being threatened. And I feel a lot of people are aware of this. Even those who weren't even aware of the thing that was happening, they're starting to wake up to realize shit ain't normal. Like, someone's obviously doing some nefarious stuff. People are being used, guinea pigged into doing atrocities of which they wouldn't normally do. They're telling these people all kinds of ill stuff about us to get them to act out and do the things to do. But over time, I started to realize people actually will understand who the true enemy is. I told myself, hey, I tried the path of just teasing and taunting the people who were doing me wrong. But then I came to the conclusion that that's not the right answer, because that only further adds to the confusion. That only further adds to more infighting and little to no solutions. Don't get me wrong, dude. There are people who have done us dirty in these times. Badly. Really bad. You must always be ready to defend yourself at a moment's notice, too. You must also be ready to at least be able to capture evidences when it presents itself. Understand that they're bringing these events to you. Whenever these perpetrators act out, they are bringing this whole scenario towards your presence. It's either been staged prior to wherever you're traveling, wherever you're going, who knows what. But in the end, it doesn't change the fact that it's drama that is deliberately being brought into your life that you did not seek. But basically it sought you. When you're dealing with gaslighting, you must understand it heavily depends upon your actions, on how you react to it. You got to understand, like, the normal things that you would actually do in a scenario of which they will present towards you during these conflicts is exactly what they have manipulated to get um, others, or at least to convince others that you're probably mentally unstable in order for them to get away with even more atrocities from which they have done. Your best bet when it comes to a lot of these behaviors: do not react, do not respond, do not be provoked, no matter what. That is probably your biggest line of defense right there, because every single thing that they do is heavily stirred towards manipulating you. People have already been bought off from the start, before the act of perpetration has even been commenced. So when people start playing the script, it's either they bought the lie or they're just being manipulated. But either way, it's still manipulation. If even those who are perpetrating against us, because in the end, no matter how you look at it, the geoengineering speaks for itself. That's like a big fuck you to the to the entire population right there. That's proof enough that they don't give a fuck about even those who perpetrate against us, because they're also affected by that stuff. I want nothing more than to educate the population about this mess. But at the same time, I believe we have to tread very carefully about how we present this to the public and about how we deal with it, as well as how we educate those on a lot of stuff, because of how much manipulation is out there. People's interpretations on certain situations are constantly manipulated all the time. That includes even, unfortunately, some solutions when it comes to buying certain things. Some things may work for others, while it doesn't work for some. Many people have different situations and different things that they deal with as well to their prior towards their targeting. You have some people who are literally chipped, and then you got some people who are not chipped. I don't know whether, I don't believe that I am chipped, but I know there was something odd that my mother told me years ago. I just couldn't figure it out. I don't know whether she was trying to fight whatever programming they were putting on her, but she had, and trust me, this gets pretty graphic. She's mentioned that when I was very young, that I just wouldn't cry, whatever, right? You know how, like, when you're born, they spank you on the behind and you're supposed to cry? She mentioned something about being placed in one of my knees, and I just couldn't figure out, why she would tell me this. She said it was something about them doing something like hammering something in my knee or whatever. So I suspect that could very well be a hidden chip somewhere there, possibly. Because another thing gives away about this is the fact that the majority of the targeting I go through is literally around my center, around my legs. And what they would do is they would use um, this this facade of a smear campaign. I call it a facade because that's not what it is. It's mainly an attempt to try to get me engaged into what is being said, because it's already been pushed to the point to where people are going to deny what's going on, despite people can obviously hear the shit that's happening. I've encountered many different people who have slipped up though as a result, and I see what they do to these people as they slipped up, and I'm like, dude, don't fucking give in to these bastards, man. Don't do that. Don't sell yourself short like that for these assholes who obviously don't give a fuck about you. Some of these people who slipped up, they've made them do embarrassing things, dude. Stuff that just didn't make any damn sense. Either they said something that just completely was weird or some other shit. I don't know. But it was mandatory for whatever it was that they did. It was pretty obvious that it was mandatory for them to do it in my presence and for me to both see and hear it. I ask myself on certain occasions, as far as many things in this world is concerned about, and I feel like we're all going through our own separate trials in life, and it's through these lessons that we're learning prior from our past mistakes, as well as, our constant encounters from our weaknesses, that we're learning a lesson in some way, not from the enemy, but we're being guided to actually strengthen ourselves up for something greater. And this whole thing that we're dealing with is something greater, far greater than we can possibly imagine. I was about to play, as some of you all know, one of my hobbies is playing video games. I was gonna play Doom, but I decided to look. I was hesitant at first, but I gave it a chance and looked a little bit more into it, right? Just in depth. I don't have confirmation on certain parts of the storyline, but I do know one thing's for certain. There is a lot of satanic subliminals in that music. There have been a scenario that had happened. There was this guy who put their music through a spectrograph, and he saw the numbers 666 appear through that spectrograph because, through the music. That should already, despite that, even through the gameplay and the visuals, there's a lot of hidden satanic subliminals even through the gameplay. This is very insidious to those who are not aware and not prepared to fight, to defend themselves against this. And they're probably manipulated in some way as a result. Their behavior is altered in some way or fashion. Me, I was prepared for that. I used right frequencies to banish any evil spirits. I know, right? And I used also ones to also banish any type of ill thoughts, such as negativity of any kind. And I could, from the time that I played it and from the time that I also detoxed myself from that kind of mentality of whatever that game entails, I could feel the difference. I could actually feel the difference of both. One of the things I came to realize of what Doomslayer was doing was he was defending those who were actual sinners, right? Don't get me wrong, we're all sinners, but these were people this is after the end, during the end time, literally after when God just said, F all those who have literally been working iniquity and all this other stuff. This is the this is what I'm getting from this game. Those working iniquity and those responsible, kind of like the people responsible for this bullshit we're going through now, even the targeting, right? Because the technology is too damn advanced of what they're using, way too advanced. And a lot of the other stuff that's going on, it just seems to add up to that one thing. It's just a lot of satanic shit. So basically, Doomslayer is technically defending those who were or let's just say, quote unquote, responsible for a lot of this shit that's going on, right? And as soon as I came to that conclusion, I'm like, okay, now I see what this is. They thought of just creating this character to save themselves from this bullshit because they know, despite the fact that there are people still tampering with forces that are way, way far beyond their own comprehension, and the gains are, the gains that they get from tampering with that stuff is extremely petty, and it's not even worth it. And in the end, you're looking at eternal damnation there. That's eternal. You're not going to escape from that. There is no reprieve. There is no rest. There is no, take a 5 minute. No, there's no 5 minute breaks. There's none of that shit. None. Once you're in there, that's it. That is it. Once you're in that lake of fire, that is it. It is done. There is no redemption after that. None at all. Not a damn thing. And then people don't understand, people don't look at it in the long terms of their actions. Don't get me wrong. This applies to all of us. This is why I look at the world with an open mind and from a different perspective than most. In the end, when it comes to this stuff, we're all going to be judged by God. But at the same time, we got to be careful, because even when it comes to religion, you still got to be careful, because now I'm finding out that this damn AI is it should have been obvious from the start, from when this other particular incident took place. This AI can manipulate folks even through religion. It can. How did I find out? One of the telltale things about this was, I think it had something to do with this spiritual being of this other religion. I think it was, I don't know if it was Arabic or what was that? My apologies if I have this wrong, but the best key clue I can give you about it is Allah. Those who were worshiping Allah, basically, it had something to do with some war that was going on, and they had used the technology to try to pretend as if there were, the that particular entity itself, and it was to force these troops to actually lay down their arms, their weapons, into submission. That's a prime example that this technology can be used to pretty much fool people into thinking they're actually speaking to God when they're really not. That's another problem. So, I'm not telling anybody to forsake the religion. I'm just telling you, be careful, because this technology can manipulate you through perspectives like that. Anybody, anything religion wise, anybody who's basically egotistic, hate, negativity. This is why they try to pump up a lot of this mess in our lives, because it feeds off that negative energy. It literally feeds off of that. This is why there's always so much negativity around. Best way you can fight negativity is with positivity. Sometimes I'll say this completely randomly. I say, you know what you need to tell that negativity to do? Tell it to basically take a walk. Give you a break. Give you a whole day's break. Or fucking give you a whole year's break of its bullshit. And take up some positivity for a change. There are times I find myself weak in certain states that I didn't even think I was even going to recover from. I helped out this guy. I helped out this other TI dude. It was so bad that they were manipulating both of us into doing things that we were having to tell each other to not do, if that makes sense. Because what it was doing was, it was triggering certain phrases to be mentioned, and then after we understood one another that, don't do that again, it was blanking our memory of the past time that it happened. So when it happened, with the repetition happening again, we weren't picking up on it until the other one was mentioning it. That's a clear sign of manipulation there. We didn't mean anything bad about one another. It was just a problematic experience for the both of us. All I got to say is I wish the guy the best, but at the same time, it was pretty bad. It's just proof enough to me, though, out of what they did, that the fact that they went as far as they did, that's how much they do not want TIs to gather up and help one another out. But if we can build like a solid defense to break off the connections of this technology, then we may actually stand a chance at being able to gather up and helping each other out. We have to find some kind of way of doing that. One thing I've thought about, since this technology is being directed, right? These frequencies or whatever is being directed, and they can go through walls and shit. I figured, why not build a wall-like foundation to where you got speakers on the ground pointing upward, as well as speakers on the ends of the ceiling pointing towards the center of the ceiling. And since a lot of the shit that they're using is negative tones, why not have positive tones of healing playing through those speakers? It has to be something offline, by the way. It cannot be something online, otherwise they'll just alter that stuff. They even say it's best to just have stuff like on Dave Case's CD. They say it's best to have that because it's difficult. It's either not impossible or it's difficult to alter something like that because you technically have to burn songs onto a disc. I don't think you can just immediately just alter songs on literally on the CD. I don't really think that's possible unless the songs that were burned onto the disc were the ones that are altered itself. One of the things that they really do not want us to do also is to have actual video footage of whatever it was they were messing with at first and then whatever it's come into later. That just shows that, that's, how would something like this, of which you were previously doing, get abbreviated later, or should I say referenced later. That's a common tactic. The mimicking is a common tactic, a lot of this stuff. But the thing is, it heavily depends on how you respond to it. If you do not respond to any of their bullshit, if you want to know how to piss them off, don't respond. If you want to know how to piss them off, I'd say God invented the mute button for a reason. How do you use the mute button? It's simple. If they're doing something stupid in your presence and it's something that you would be able to see, keep a big newspaper on hand. It doesn't even matter how many times you have read the damn thing, just keep it on hand. You could sit down somewhere and then just prop that bad motherfucker open. You don't even have to see their bullshit. You could just ignore them. If they want to get loud, get some decent looking headphones. They can easily cut out the sound from outside sources. Bone conduction is one, but I do not recommend you sleep with them on, by the way, because that's technically dangerous. And I found that one out the hard way. The other thing is that overall, that's what pisses them off, is not giving a response. Even a response to let them know that what they're doing is not fucking with you, that still counts as a response that they would be okay to hear. So like, okay, what I just did just triggered a response, so just keep it up and maybe they'll get another one and another one and another one. The sole purpose as to why they're fucking with you is to get that response. So the best thing you can do is not react. Don't respond to it. Understand it's a distraction. It's not about materialistic things. It's not even about money. No, they got plenty of that shit. That's not what it is. No matter how they try to deceive you with that, that is not what it is. What it is about is the mind. Every little bullshit thing that they do leads right back to the mind. It's all a mind game. It's all a mind fuck. Every last bit of it. Because you can have done what I did. I went off grid. I literally said, fuck all this shit. I threw my system in the trash, the PS3, and then any other materialistic possession. I literally left my weights set sitting outside of a motel complex and shit, right? I just didn't give a fuck. I just left. I didn't care. I left. And I left all that shit behind without a care in the world. I'm getting tested even later on in my life. I'm not even going to say from who or from where about materialistic things. But when I say that I've put it myself in a perspective to where I do not allow these things to have a hold on me, I really mean that. When the great Louisiana flood hit, I was not concerned about that PlayStation. I was not concerned about my TV. I didn't give a fuck about any of that. I could care less. The only thing my concern was helping out my family. That's all that mattered to me at the time. That's it. That's all. I didn't give a fuck about that materialistic garbage. And you know what? God rewarded me for that. Because after all that flooding went down, All that electronic stuff that I didn't give a damn about actually still worked. The television still worked, just had to dry out. The PS4 still worked, just had to dry out. Even the controller, well, one of them at least, still worked. All it had to do was simply dry. Despite the fact that that was disgusting water that was out there, it still worked. I know. Who'd have thought that a flood wouldn't be enough to do something like that in, right? And that's what a lot of people have to learn. Do not allow these materialistic possessions to weigh you down like that. Don't allow them to chain you and have that hold over you of control. Don't allow that to happen. Don't. Anyway, that's about all the information I got for this video. I stayed away from a lot of obvious things. Stayed away from TikTok. Some say you can reach out to more and more people through that, but unfortunately, that's coming from China. And if you're not aware, China is one of the forces. Not everybody in China, of course, but the control side of China is heavily also at the forefront of a lot of this control, a lot of this technology that seeks to just take control over everything. You know, one of the things that they want the most is to have everybody in a smart home. You know, you got to have a smart TV. You got to drink smart water. You got to have a smartphone. You got to have a smart computer. You got to have a smart watch. All of this stuff, right? All of this stuff is integrated with technology. And lo and behold, if you're wondering why I mentioned water, well, the domestic quail is pretty much good enough proof for that. Anyway, that's going to be all for this video. I send my hopes and my prayers out to all of you, as well as my love, and hope all of you are doing well. Take care and stay safe.